They took an important step in moving away from being an American territory and reminded their underpants to the south of their border that they are a full-fledged nation and that their brain rot is nowhere near as bad. Let's get to some hope, I guess. Let's talk about Canada, our communist neighbors to the north. Some might say it's America's hat. I say it's Mark's Carney's time. That's right. The Liberal Party has gotten a resounding victory last night at the Canadian elections. A real country, by the way, not fake. I know, I checked.
I've been warning for months. America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen. We are once again at one of those hinge moments of history. Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over. These are tragedies, but it's also our new reality. We are over the shock of the American betrayal.
How are the markets not crashing? Does this whole financial system just run on hopium? Yes. No, literally. Like, it's just vibes. It's all vibes based. And it's not even like an accurate assessment of the vibes. They just want to feel like it's good, and that's it.
But we should never forget the lessons.
But you're going to take us forward.
We have to look out for ourselves. And above all, we have to take care of each other.
He wants you to come on the pod Friday. He just posted that dog article. Hell yeah. I'm down. I'm gonna be live on my end, for the record. But I'm down. I guess he's talking to Sam Cedar then, huh?
And my message to every Canadian is this: no matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you voted, I will always do my best to represent everyone who calls Canada home.
Breaking overnight this stunning political comeback thanks to and at the expense of President Trump. Canada's Liberal Party, led by Prime Minister Mark Carney, declared victory overnight despite being really left for dead.
Why do you hate Canada so much? I get it, but like, we have nowhere to look for any news, though. Someone being a about it. Wait, what? I don't hate Canada. What's wrong with you? If anything, I'm just jealous. But I am annoyed by the same fawning pieces that were written in 2016? Like, whenever Trudeau popped off, like all of the Trudeau was seen as like as a counter to Donald Trump, and it was in the aftermath. In 2015, yes, there was a lot of fawning pieces, but in the aftermath of the Trump victory, those pieces elevated, okay? People were going crazy over Justin Trudeau and talking about how he is like a perfect, I even entertained it, how he was such a perfect counter to the madness that Trump presented. And I feel like that is what's going on again. That's what's happening right now. People are just like jumping on the Carney train pretty hard. And I mean, he is objectively better than PP, right? Like, that's not even a question. He's objectively better than PP. I mean, that's not even a question. Like, he just, PP sucks. Pierre Polar Bear. So we shall see. You know, I'm never going to jump on board with like a liberal W to be like, it's over. This is such a major victory, in the same way that, like, regardless of my assessment of Kamala's chances, like, I wasn't excited. I gave an interview to Newsweek in the lead up to the election where I talked about how even if Donald Trump loses and Kamala Harris wins, like, I am not excited about the future of America because Donald Trump has been able to successfully rebuild American politics in his vision, right? And that it's just the same principle here with Carney. Not to like yuck your yum, Canadians. Like, you got a stay of execution, right? You got a stay of execution, and you should celebrate PP losing his seat. You should celebrate the conservatives taking an L, especially because a couple months ago, Justin Trudeau was so unpopular. Justin Trudeau was so goddamn unpopular that it looked like conservatives were going to win, right? And then Donald Trump came out and saved your country. Saved your country by being a repulsive little freak that kept entertaining the notion of permanent military annexation of Canada, which was insane. And then the Liberals did the right thing, and they got Justin out, and they put this dude in his stead. And very quickly, there was a massive jump in the polls. Like, it was insane. Having said that, I'm not going to, I understand the excitement, right? This is your moment to celebrate for sure. If you think that this is going to lead to like a Canadian socialist project, it's not going to happen.
Several months ago, but then Donald Trump took office, targeted Canada with tariffs, and threatened to annex it as the 51st state.
America.
I will say it's awesome that a dude whose only ambition was to win this race since the age of 20? Like, a guy who basically designed his entire life around this race that he just lost, okay, who's never had a real job, who basically rebuilt his own image in the process. A guy who has only been a politician for this purpose got his pushed in crazy style as a direct consequence of Donald Trump and his associations with Donald Trump. I'm sorry. That is spectacular. Okay? That is amazing. And now he's unemployed. That is a real moment for excitement and celebration. For sure. What a fumble, dude. What a goddamn fumble. Jordan Peterson's probably crying since this Marxist regime has come back to Canada after years of Justin Trudeau's Che Guevaran-style governance where they executed people for transgender crimes in broad daylight. That's right. If you were compelled to correctly gender someone and refused bravely, Justin Trudeau's militants would send you to the Gulag Archipelago and shoot you in the back of the head. And now Mark Carney will follow the same agenda of socialist violence.
Wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us.
Pierre PP went from fully guaranteed to be prime minister to losing his own seat. Insane turnaround. Excellent. Excellent turnaround. You will never catch me not celebrating a conservative head taking the fattest L of all time. Okay? That is something that I will always be on board with. I will always celebrate that. I'm petty. I don't give a shit.
That will never, ever happen.
That was the main campaign issue, and this is what Donald Trump has said about Canada over the last several months.
And we can't let them take advantage of the U.S. What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. Canada only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S. If we make it in the United States, we don't need it to be made in Canada. We'll have the jobs. That's why Canada should be our 51st state. So when I say they should be a state, I mean that. I really mean that. Because we can't be expected to carry a country. I do like the OCAN.
Borders are scars against the face of the earth. All borders require the violence of their maintenance. Folks, we must abolish borders. No gods, no masters, and no more borders. Folks, believe me, have you read this book? They're calling it the bread book. They're saying there's no end to exploitation until full appropriation. We must take over all of the lands that are owned in the hands of private capital. No more enclosures. Kropotkin. Oh, it's amazing. He endorsed himself the day of the election. Good luck to the great people of Canada. Elect the man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power for free to the highest level in the world, have your car, steel, aluminum, lumber, energy, and other businesses quadruple in size with zero tariffs or taxes. If Canada becomes...
Trudeau virtue signaled to a degree that was very...
If Canada becomes the cherished 51st state of the United States of America, no more artificially drawn line from many years ago. Look how beautiful this landmass would be. Free access with no border, all positives with no negatives. It was meant to be. America can no longer subsidize Canada with the hundreds of billions of dollars a year that we have been spending in the past. It makes no sense unless Canada is a state. Pierre Poilievre on January 1st, 2025. RIP Canada. Liberal accomplishments. Worst housing affordability ever. Skyrocketing national debt. Rampant inflation. Homelessness in 10 cities. Violent crime rates soaring. Hell yeah, baby. That's right. The Liberal Party is going to continue making every Canadian homeless. I've heard they have a specific policy of only giving free housing to the Indian migrants. And the way that they're doing it is they're going to white people's homes in Canada. If you're like a red-blooded white patriot Canadian who has conservative leanings and associations, they come to your house with guns and they say, "You're homeless now, eh? You're homeless now, eh?" And then they make sure that you live in the streets, okay? No more bootstraps for you so that an Indian family can take over your house. That's what I've heard. This is Jordan Peterson's face when he finds out he's about to be evicted to become homeless so that an Indian family can live in his home.
Virtually impossible as he impoverished Canada.
Is that true? Yeah. Yeah. If you've ever said two genders, if you've ever accidentally misgendered a trans person, if you've ever accidentally misgendered a trans person, even if you apologize immediately after and it was a total accident, it doesn't matter. You're instantly getting evicted from your home by the Mounties. Yeah, it's actually so much worse. The Indian family is also trans. Yes.
Canada, right? It's a beautiful thing. I think we're going to have to keep it for the 51st state. I call him Governor Trudeau.
It's quite literally like all of this stuff is directly the reason why Mark Carney won. Oh my God, I keep saying Mark Carney. It's going to stick. It's like when I said Keir Stalin. Keir Stalin, Mark Carney. That's right. Karl Marx Carney. Marx Carney. That's right. More like Marx Carney. It's happening. Canada is becoming a part of the CCP. That's right. They are Chicom.
All right, how decisive was President Trump in the Canadian election?
Hey,
Our friend John
Fayar. Thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. It's Moldovan Mama Liga time. You literally have to admit each province is an individual state and the territories is like their own separate state to even have a mechanism of a seating, short of annexation, which would turn the entirety of Canada into the FLN, to be honest. Dude, the Quebecers would lose their if they were under double occupation. Can you imagine? They were like, the Anglophone Canadians have harmed us our whole lives. Now there's an even worse threat out there. Anglophone Americans. Like, dude, they would they would do stuff that militants would be like, that's a bridge too far. Like, why are you doing this? This is like so much. This is so much carnage. They would be like, they would make the Viet Cong look like peaceful doves. Okay. It's crazy to think. The new IRA. Yeah. No shot. Double occupation. Yeah. As you guys know, Denis Villeneuve is the reason why I am a Quebec separatist. And for that reason, as a Quebec separatist, I am in favor of the Quebec resistance movement doing whatever they must to deny America occupation, okay? All of a sudden, Quebecers actually do become the Maoist third worldists in this process, okay? All of a sudden, they are hailed as the liberators.
Jonathan Martin at Politico heard from Republican Congressman Don Bacon overnight. Yes, Republican Congressman. Bacon told him, quote, the Liberals in Canada were losing big until our president kept mocking Canadians, our neighbors and close friends. He made Canadian Liberals great again. Let's get right to CNN's Paula Newton in Ottawa for this really election stunner. 4 months ago, no one would have predicted this.
And good morning, John. In fact, Donald Trump's first 100 days consequential here in Canada. John, this was so history-making that when you speak to pollsters, they talk about not having seen this kind of party resurrection in modern political history in almost any democracy around the world. Think about that. And that was because the man, Prime Minister Mark Carney, met the moment with what? His resume. He's not exactly the most charismatic campaigner, but Canadians put their faith in him in order to bargain, to negotiate with Donald Trump. And I want to talk about something else as well, something that will reverberate in many different countries right now going forward as they all face the Trump administration. Mark Carney harnessed that anger, that betrayal that Canadians felt every time the president spoke about a 51st state or Governor Trudeau, which of course was the man that Mark Carney took over from. He harnessed that. He stiffens spines, he talks about sacrifice, and he's getting Canadians ready for what will be a tough negotiation with the president. Listen.
When I sit down with President Trump,
Liberals to the north, Mexicans to the south, Trump can't imagine a worse world. Yeah, the difference is I think he hates liberals more than he hates Morena. So he likes Claudia Sheinbaum. He has said that he respects Claudia Sheinbaum on numerous occasions. I think part of that is because she plays ball, and so did AMLO with the immigration stuff. And they just basically let them do welfare state shit as a benefit, as a present, as a gift. They were like, oh, if you keep migrants inside of Mexico rather than allowing them to travel into the United States, then we'll let you do welfare in your country. We'll give you a little bit of autonomy as a treat. And he also likes Claudia because she's popular, and Trump loves popular leaders. He has no idea why a Jewish woman is president of Mexico. He's just rolling with it. Yeah, I mean, that's irrelevant. I think it's just because of her popularity, Morena's popularity, and their willingness to play ball with the Trump administration when it comes to combating immigration spillover into the United States.
it will be to discuss the future economic and security relationship between two sovereign nations. And it will be with our full knowledge that we have many, many other options than the United States to build prosperity for all Canadians.
Mark Carney calling this a hinge moment, right? That pivot, which he intends to execute now that he is Prime Minister. John, I want to make clear this was a close election in terms of the popular vote. Canada really splitting between the Liberals of Mark Carney and the Conservatives of Pierre Poilievre. That man did not manage to even win his seat just outside here in Ottawa. Some people called him too Trumpian, but he too is at historic highs in the popular vote. What does all that mean? It means Canada itself, stop me when this sounds familiar, is really leaning on two-party politics. They want strong leaders to face the kind of threat that is coming from the White House. And right now, Mark Carney says he is getting ready for negotiations, using the word, again, John, of sacrifice, preparing Canadians for what's to come. John?
Really could have ripple effects all around the world in terms of what Donald Trump is trying to do. Paula Newton, great to see you this morning. Thank you very much.
So let's get more on the Canadian election now from Professor Michael Keating, Emeritus Professor of Politics at the University of Aberdeen and Honorary Professor at the University of Edinburgh. Appreciate you joining us. So Canada's Liberal Party is projected to win the federal election led by Mark Carney in a stunning political comeback. Votes are still being counted, but how do you expect this to land in the end?
It's not clear whether Carney will get an absolute majority, but he will certainly form the next government because he's the biggest party. They're ahead in the popular vote. If he doesn't get a majority, he'll have to seek support from the smaller parties, most likely the New Democratic Party, which is a centre-left party, which has been doing very badly, but they may pick up half a dozen seats, and that might be critical to forming the next government.
Now, in his victory speech, Carney asked, and I'm quoting here, "Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me?" How much of this Liberal Party win was due to the Trump factor, with Donald Trump's trade war with Canada and, of course, his constant threats to make the country the 51st U.S. state?
Talking to a potato, that's because Trump couldn't liberate the country. That's why. If Trump could have liberated the country, we would have had this guy on the wonderful American broadband, as you guys know, the wonderful American broadband that is famously very good. NDP the bed finally. How is that a good moment, dude? I mean, they the bed on their own volition, from what I understand. I don't know enough. I don't know. I hate that. Like, look, I didn't pay enough attention to the NDP's issues, but it's obvious that they have fallen out of favor spectacularly, and my immediate suspicion is because they were so closely associated with Justin Trudeau. Like they had to concede to Justin Trudeau over and over again in an effort to have a fraction of power. And ironically enough, despite the fact that the liberal here presented a different face to the movement and was able to differentiate himself from Justin Trudeau in that moment and become the most prominent face of like the anti-Trump coalition in the process, which elevated him into the status that he got. Whereas I suspect a little bit that NDP's catering to the liberals only normalized liberal positions to their own base, and also was a reminder that like Jagmeet Singh was a reminder of the Trudeau incompetence, perhaps. I don't know. Horrible messaging. They targeted Trudeau too much, didn't address policies. No, but I'm saying initially when they were trying to legislate, they were collaborating with the liberals. No, am I wrong? NDP normalized pharmacare and dental care as a liberal position. Yeah, that was good. Then you also have the scare. Then you also have in specific riders like tactical voting. Don't vote for NDP in places where like the liberals have a better shot, and it seems like that was part of the problem too.
Oh, a great deal. Canadians are very proud of their independence. They don't dislike the United States, but they're very keen to tell you that they are not Americans. They're not part of the United States. And that kind of language is going to produce a reaction. All the parties in Canada, Quebec nationalists included, had to say, no, we'll stand up for Canada. But Carney was the most effective in doing that because the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, had been seen as having some affinities with Trump and quite close to Trump. So Carney was the one who is in a better position to speak in defense of Canada. It should be said, however, the Conservative vote also went up. Both parties went up. And at the expense of the small parties, I mentioned the New Democratic Party. There's a Quebec nationalist party, the Bloc Québécois, who may get some seats in Parliament as well. So a win for Carney, but not an overwhelming win. because nevertheless it's remarkable because they were 25 points behind just a few months ago. I've never seen such a massive turnaround in such a short period of time in any democratic system.
Yes, of course. And Mark Carney is a Harvard-educated economist with a master's degree and doctorate from Oxford University. He's also a former governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. So how will he likely take on Donald Trump and his tariffs? And how will he prevent a recession in Canada?
Bro.
Well, that's remarkable.
Canada is so by the way. Like, the idea of like, oh, we have a smart banker who's not going to f the economy. It's like classic. You don't need to have just a smart banker to not do Trump, okay? Anyway, once again, not enough robust or viable alternatives. And you get Mark Carney, also known as Marks Carney, also Mr. Pro-China, apparently. So who knows? Who knows where that goes, you know? It's the smart bankers that f***ed up the West, okay? It's the smart bankers that created the economic instability that led to Donald Trump. Make no mistake, okay? It is all the smart and efficient bankers that deregulated finance, that unleashed the markets, if you will.
He's an Oxford-educated banker. He's just the sort of people that the populace would target. That is quite remarkable. Hardly an ordinary man of the people, but nevertheless, he speaks with some authority, and at a time of uncertainty like this, people are looking for somebody who doesn't have political experience, but has a lot of credibility and has run 2 central banks. The challenges facing the country are enormous. Even without the threat from President Trump, there are problems with growth, problems with productivity, there are problems with inflation and the cost of living. These are big problems, and Canada's dependence on energy is in some sense a strength, but it's also a weakness at a time when we're supposed to be transitioning to net to zero. As far as Trump is concerned, this is a huge challenge. Carney has certainly been able to speak up.
But that's not Carney, you moron. Canada did not go into economic depression when the States did in 2008 because of him. No, it's the same school of thought across the board. It's just a defensive posture towards deregulation. Even though, from what I've seen of Carney's own words, he seemingly is against that. The whole market fundamentalism actually ends up eating, just as any revolution eats its own children. Market fundamentalism has created real problems. Blah blah blah. I know. I've heard those words. It's almost identical to what the Pope had said. So much so that I thought it was actually the quote from the Pope. The Pope that just passed away. When he was governor of the BOC, he kept the reserve ratios high, more regulated so the 2008 recession didn't hit us as hard. Look, all I'm saying is that even the smartest economist, okay, even the smartest banker is still a banker. This is only causing a little bit of skepticism in me. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he's as bad as PP would have been. I'm saying the exact opposite. I think it's perfectly valid to celebrate the defeat of a ass conservative, right? But you know, it's still at the end of the day a banker. So excuse me for thinking maybe, you know, being a little bit skeptical about a banker, regardless of how brilliant his banking techniques might have been at the time.
For Canada, and to criticize Trump very frankly in a way that some other leaders, such as the British leader, have not been able to. But he's got to deal with the United States. The United States takes 85% of Canada's trade. There's got to be some kind of deal. Otherwise, the economic consequences for Canada could be quite devastating.
Michael Keating, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
I will say this about Marks Carney. I look forward to being pleasantly surprised by his impact in office. I wish Canada the very best. They took an important step in moving away from being an American territory and reminded their underpants to the south of their border that they are a full-fledged nation with autonomy, with sovereignty, and that their brain rot is nowhere near as bad. And that's good. That's great. I'm excited to see what Carney does. I hope that my skepticism is completely and utterly unwarranted. Every Canadian progressive is far too lived up right now. It's genuinely impressive. They're coconut pilled. Look, man, if Canada doesn't fix its housing problem, none of this shit matters. Okay? That's it. That's it. The first thing that he should be doing is to fix the housing crisis in Canada. And the only successful long-term solution for that is socialized housing. Do I suspect a banker is going to do public housing? No. Maybe he will surprise me.